This is Scott Loveridge with the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development. I'm pleased to introduce today's webinar on incorporating interactive web techniques with public engagement and community decision making. And we've got an all-star team here today to present that. Unfortunately, Mary Simon Leuci isn't able to join us, but her colleagues are going to fill in for her. So we've got Sarah Massengale, who's a community development specialist with University of Missouri Extension in South Central Missouri. Ted Gallion, also with Mizzou. He's a statewide coordinator for community issues management. And Chris Seeger is associate professor and extension specialist in landscape architecture and geospatial technology at Iowa State. And Dan Otto, who's going to lead off, is professor of economics and extension economist and associate director of extension to communities at Iowa State University. And finally, Diane van Wyngarden is a community and economic development specialist at Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. I'm going to turn it over to Dan here, and he's going to lead off and then work with his colleagues. Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, thanks, Scott. Good morning and welcome to our webinar on incorporating interactive web techniques with public engagement community decision making. Scott already went through the introduction of our team here at Iowa State and at Missouri. This was a mini grant funded by the North Central Rural Development Center, and we were trying to do a little more than just the traditional community development project of helping local businesses. We also want to use web-based tools to try to help facilitate the community engagement process. We want to use these tools to help communities acquire that basic information, make it more widely available to promote community businesses, and make it easy for them to update that information. And we also want to use different GIS tools to compare how they would work for developing, doing community development projects. We applied it to two parallel projects. In Iowa, we focused on kind of a regional tourism-based development strategy. We kind of used the tools to acquire information, help businesses update it, to find ways to help expand the list of businesses involved, and maybe move into other topics. In Missouri, the topic that was focused on is trying to help local food systems grow and develop, matching up producers to other markets, trying to address issues of healthy food access and issues like that. And we kind of used coordinated our projects. We worked parallel with their extension systems in our respective states to use the tools there. We had different GIS-based tools that we'll go into in the presentation here. But we had monthly conference calls to coordinate and share strategies and keep us on track. And with that, I guess I'll turn it over to Diane and talk about the community development process that we chose to focus on in Iowa.
Good morning. We focused on culinary tours, which may seem a little bit unusual for our part of the country. Typically, culinary tours are an economic development tool used in larger cities such as San Francisco and Chicago or Charleston. But we wanted to see if we could apply this tool in small towns by the use of a new web communication tool. Now, why would we see that as an economic development tool? For several reasons. Culinary tools pull travelers directly into a city's business district. It then engages the visitors one-on-one with the businesses. They cross the threshold into the businesses, and the customers personally connect, and this tends to create new and repeat customers. It also extends the tourism season. In the upper Midwest, often the winter ends much of the tourism season, or in the summer becomes extremely hot. Because this is primarily indoor activities, this creates an extended season for tourism. Culinary tools also provide experiences. It makes the visits to these businesses fun and educational. Customers feel like they received added value when they make a purchase. And also it provides flexibility. Culinary tools can be customized for groups. It can be narrated by a historian or for individuals. They may sign up to join a pre-designated narrated tour, or they can be independently visitors to businesses through a web-based tool that we will talk about in a little bit. Now, our 3 goals of the tour project included to attract visitors with a variety of foods and related stories. For when a visitor samples, for example, the Dutch letters of a bakery, they also learn about the significance and the history, that there's a story behind this particular food item. Likewise, when they sample Gouda cheese, they'll hear about how was it sold, how was it transported. Customers are drawn to a food when it is related to a history. Also, a goal was to have a cooperative effort by local businesses to increase the retail pull factor. And finally, to create a new communication tool for visitors to introduce the food experiences and their locations. Why Pella, Iowa? Pella is ready for company. It is a small town, about 11,000. It's about an hour from Des Moines, Iowa. And it is physically ready. It has ethnically unique architecture and heritage, which creates many fun and interesting stories, and especially ethnic foods. The Pella merchants already experience and they understand the economic value of tourism. They currently independently draw visitors to their businesses, but they require an organized effort to partner together so that they can create a greater draw. And they are physically located near each other. They provide a cluster of unique food-related businesses within walking distance from each other. And the Convention and Visitors Bureau of Pella has a talented staff who are willing to work with us and to experiment on this project. Chris will share with us more of the details about the web tool.
Thank you, Diane, and good morning, everybody. And as Diane was mentioning, why Pella, Iowa, and when we first started this project, I went down there. I've known Pella, the city of Pella, for many years, but the one thing that kind of reconfirmed how this whole system would work was while walking on the city square, I came across the Pella Bologna sign on the sidewalk, and that really speaks to what we're trying to do. It's just that we're trying to take this project and make it digital, geospatial, and make it so that people can see that sign on the street without having to go to Pella, so that they can plan their trip to Pella. And the way that we can do this is to start out with a web-based spatial database that will contain information about each individual company. We also need to provide a web-based location for the business owners to discuss ideas, share ideas, and this is partly because it's really tough to try and get the business owners together at the same time during the day to meet. And obviously evenings don't work because several of them, that's their primary time of day to be serving food. Others, it's the midday. Some, it's breakfast. So it's really difficult to bring this group of business people together. And the third part, or component of the tool that we're building, was a searchable map interface that will allow visitors to search out the places that would be offering various food samples during the day. So I want to walk you through just some screenshots from the tool so you can get a sense for how it works. The first thing would be business owners could go and create an account for their business. So they type in the name of the business, in this case the bakery, their phone number, where they're located, and fill in this form. Now, when they wrote in the business address, and we can see that right here, they would enter that information in and then tell it to locate on the map. And when they press locate on the map, it would center this map on their location and put an icon there that they could drag and put basically at their storefront, the front door to their store. And this way, they had a chance to visually see the location that they were being placed in the map and confirm that it was correct. Because sometimes some of the business owners that we've talked to on various projects in the past have said they like having a presence in a database or on the map, but often it's off by a couple of stores. And so here it's very important for us to have the front door marked accurately. So after they have created the account, then they can go in and start adding products to the database. What kind of products might they share during the week? And they can provide information on the specialties, what's special about their store. But then the food samples are where they give us individual items. So let's get this pointer. So here, as you can see, they can type in, for example, the bakery offers Dutch letters, and they can give a description. They can upload a photo of the product. They can pick which day of the week they are going to be offering that as a sample. They also have the ability to set the status of that product. Maybe typically during the week they do have this product available, but for some reason during the Thanksgiving week they're not going to have Dutch letters. They don't have to go and remove this item from the database. It can still stay in their list of items that they offer. They can just hide it by clicking here from display on the map. So that way it makes it really easy for them to turn stuff on and off. Now, in visiting with the Chamber of Commerce and the tourism people down there, we did discover that they do indeed want to be able to set the hours. We had set it initially for them just to have days available, but for some companies, they won't have a product available for the full time during the day. Maybe just during the slow period of the day, maybe between 2:30 and 4:30, they'd offer a product. So that's why we came back and added in then the ability to also set the time of day that they have a product available. So once companies start putting their data in to the database, we want them to be able to look at a schedule planning screen so that they can see who's offering what during the different times of the day. And this is where the collaboration piece comes into work. The idea here is that if the city offered, or businesses only offered stuff once during the week, or only one business offered something during the 1 o'clock hour, then that's not really an attracting element for tourism. What we want several different companies offering a variety of products throughout the week. So this scheduling system allows them to see what's being offered during the week. They can send comments to each other. Maybe one business says, hey, we can offer this if you want to also offer a different product, and then on Thursdays we'll swap. These could be two competing bakeries. There's no sense in having both bakeries provide Dutch letters, let's say, on the same day. So that's what this tool is useful for. And then the search interface, the way that this more or less works, this is on a website, and you go to the tour website for Pella, you'd be able to link to this. And on that page, you set the day of the week that you're planning to be there, and it does a search for you, and it comes back and shows you what products are available and the times that those products would be available on those days. And it also shows you on the map the location of these various stores. Now, one other piece of the tool is, in order to make it work, you do have to have some type of central administration. And in this case, it would be the local tourism board. And what they can do is they could add a link to their local website. It could be a badge or a link on the page. And what it does then, it links to a server at Iowa State University that is hosting the culinary tour project. Now, in addition to this, you can see their page, the colors that they use on their current page. The colors in these samples have blue borders. They can set the style guide so that they can use some of these colors over on the culinary tour page. They can also put in their Pella logo if they wanted. And this way it starts to look like it's more part of their site, but yet it's hosted on an Iowa State University server just using some templates. So some of the next steps with this project, we want to make sure that this tool, it maintains a unique purpose. It's not meant to replicate what Yelp or Urban Spoon do. It's meant to just be a guide to items available. Using the background system, we'd also have the ability to add in tours that focus on architectural, heritage, or craft demonstrations. And this could all be combined into one interface. So if you were planning a trip to Pella, you could see all the different things going on at that one time. Of course, with everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people moving to smartphone being their primary tool for interacting with the internet, we also are making the styles that are used for the map and everything in a format that can work both on traditional computers as well as smartphones. And then, of course, we need to do some type of integration with Facebook at some point. That kind of summarizes what we did in Pella, and I'm going to hand it over to Ted now to talk about the Kim project.
Thank you, Chris. Communities Issues Management, and as you heard, we call it Kim for short, is a web-based system designed for local and regional organizations to frame and manage and collaborate and take action on complex issues. Kim can be employed as a tool for use with organizations and as a tool for community engagement to foster participation in transparent, data-informed, and collaborative decision-making. Kim also provides an environment to help you tell your community story. And today we will demonstrate Kim and do that within the context of the Healthy Lifestyles Initiative here in Missouri. Sarah Massengale is a regional faculty member in the South Central region of University of Missouri Extension, and Sarah is going to share her initiative with us today. And I'll turn the time over to Sarah.
Good morning. Sorry, I switched too far. In 2007, University of Missouri Extension initiated the Healthy Lifestyle Initiative, which was a statewide project to help communities develop broad-based coalitions to address health issues in their communities. The coalitions represent people from various sectors in the community, and their goal is to find and implement policy and environmental changes that would help to improve access to healthy food and safe opportunities for physical activity. I worked with 2 counties in the South Central region, Dent and Crawford, that have significant health challenges. And you can see from the chart there's high rates of obesity. It looks like we had a pie chart with causes of death. Doesn't look like it showed up, but we also have high rates of heart disease as a cause of death. Cancer is high. And then it's a high poverty area with increasing rates of food insecurity. So this region is particularly interested in access to healthy foods. And you can see from the map here, which is the Kim map, that we were able to map food deserts in the region and use this as a tool to engage discussion with our counties and coalitions about where gaps are in food access and how we might address those issues. Oops, I'm sorry, I seem to have bumped something. Sorry about that. Let's see if I can, there we go. Okay, so what we did, especially in this region, there's an influx of community and school gardens, farmers markets, and our regional extension faculty are getting a lot of questions about how to start gardens or farmers markets, how to connect with our people that are doing this work. And so one of the things we used with Kim was to develop a regional database of community gardens that lists our where they're located, some key information, whether they're open to the public or not, you know, who the contact person is, so that people can help share information among our regional faculty members and as they get questions from the community. Kim also allows you to, besides the maps, develop a database of information. And so here's just a piece of our database of the community gardens in the South Central region. So this is accessible to all of our regional extension faculty to look at when they get questions. And then the main community, Crawford County, that we worked with, their coalition really wanted to help spread the word about existing opportunities or places that are already serving healthy food. And so we developed these maps that listed locations among the different cities in Crawford County that had healthy food, their farmers markets or community gardens. And then they wanted to be able to share this information with the community to help address gaps or find other information or things they had missed. We used these maps at the county fair this summer, along with a community needs survey to help identify priority issues for improving health and healthy living in the community, as well as to identify new opportunities or strategies that could help increase access to healthy food. The future plans for using these maps and the KIM project in these two communities is to update the maps with the new information that we got over the summer from the community and county fair. And they want to make restaurant placemats of the maps so that people could take a look at them, have the contact information for the coalition if they're interested to help or join. They're also developing a walk tour of the Cuba, which is a community in Crawford County, of their city murals. So they're building off existing assets in the community that can tie into being healthy, so connecting some of those pieces together. So at this point I'm going to turn it over to Ted again to talk about some of the technical aspects of using KIM.
Thank you, Sarah. The foundation of KIM is a process, is a GIS foundation, a process for framing issues through a wealth of geographic information system data and mapping and reporting tools custom built for organizations to better understand how issues impact people and place. Unique to KIM is a streamlined process to integrate and overlay local mapping data with the state and national mapping data that is available in the KIM warehouse. Organizations increasingly rely on data and geography information technologies from web-based data warehouses to examine the place-based impact of public policies. However, these organizations often lack time, expertise, or technology infrastructure to make the best use of data resources for decision-making. Community issues management overcomes these constraints by providing tools for framing issues, facilitating community dialogue, supporting decision-making procedures, and enabling data integration. KIM provides more depth to the understanding of issues and opens new ways of viewing the questions groups are seeking to address. KIM allows decision makers to deliberate how best to align resources within communities, organizations, people, and places. KIM pulls together 4 unique capabilities into one system. You've seen maps that Sarah had generated, and we also generate reports from within KIM. The other thing, and I'll show you a screenshot of the issue workspace in a little bit, but that is where stakeholders can collaborate and participate in the issue that they're working on. And then finally, data integration is an important part, because not only are a number of, as I said, regional, state, national data sets available. There are about 13,000 data sets available. But you can also integrate and upload local data that you may have, such as I know Sarah uploaded her community garden information. That did not come from a data set already in KIM, but she was able to upload that. And then finally, KIM provides you a place and an environment to tell the community story. And this is the partner homepage, which is a public area. And we'll discuss public and private in a moment, but this is a public area. And if you scroll down, you can see that there's a brief blurb about our organization. And then on the right-hand side of the screen is where we can tell our community stories. And right now there are 3 of those up. And we want to click and go into the Healthy Lifestyles Initiative. The Healthy Lifestyles Initiative has its own homepage and information where all types of data can be added. And I want to point out one area. There's an invite me button over on the upper right hand corner, and that is for somebody who may be visiting, thank you, the initiative and feel that they would like to participate in that initiative. So when this button is clicked, it would send an email to Sarah informing her that there's an individual or a group that would like to participate with her in the Healthy Lifestyles initiative, and she can start a conversation at that point and later invite them into the workspace if she would like to do that. And this is a public area again. So now if we scroll down, we can see that there's an area for a narrative, additional maps, and there's also you can put your outcomes or accomplishments that the community would like to list in that narrative. And finally, at the bottom of this page, the Healthy Lifestyles Initiative page, there are a number of links that have been made public that will allow individuals to go in and look at different maps or other documents or links or anything that Sarah would like for the public to see while she's there. And this area is still public. The next slide is I mentioned to you earlier, the issue workspace area. And this is a private area. The public is not permitted in here because this is where the issue workspace members do their work. This is where they go to create their maps, their documents, link to other information or websites that Sarah or whatever web members have made public. And I want to show you in the lower right hand corner, there's an invite button and a remove button. Sarah has control over that, and she can then, like I said, if somebody clicks that button that says invite me on the other page, she can send an email by clicking the invite button, and it will invite this person to become part of the issue workspace. And that person will have access to all the mapping tools, report tools, report cards, and data sets that are available in KIM. And you can see if we scroll down the page a little bit further, all of the edit buttons, detach content, you can email content, or click on make a map, make a report, add files or links, etc. You can also carry on a discussion within this page. And finally, you get to the area where you can tell your story. And this is where Sarah created her story that we saw on the previous pages that talked about the Healthy Lifestyles Initiative. And if you click on this link here, which is the title for the story, you go to the Create a Story page. And this is a text-based system here where you enter text, but you can see there are also style and format tools available that allow you actually to format and style the story. And this is where that public content was developed. And if we scroll down to the bottom of this page, you will see that there is an area here where if you click this, it will take you to a browser where you can upload any type of photographs or other graphics for the public story. And that's how we got those pictures into the Healthy Lifestyles Initiative that you saw that would rotate on the screen. And then here is where you share that story. If you click that box, it will share it. Then the other box is where you add a request invitation to this issue workspace. And this creates the button that you saw on the previous page that says invite me. And then you have a start date and an end date if you want this initiative or this particular story to run for a finite period of time. If you don't enter a date or in these areas, it will stay there indefinitely. And at this time, I'd like to turn the time back over. I believe Iowa State is going to present their lessons learned, and we'll discuss that.
All right. Thank you, Ted. So with the project in Pella, some of the things that we learned, and some of these things we kind of knew at the start of the project. The first, again, was that technology is not a substitute for engagement. We need to still go and meet with the business owners, primarily meet with the tourism director down there, and we need to build off what the community is already doing and use that synergy when we're doing that. Then it's critical for us to communicate what the intent of this project is. The purpose was not to try and bolster the business of just one of the bakery, just like the bakery or the one meat shop over the other businesses. We recognize that they need to all work together to make the city of Pella become a destination more than it is already. And if they can do that, then they can all benefit. It's about getting more people walking past their front door. The other thing that was important in this collaboration between businesses that came out was, when you have local food destinations, those are specialty shops, likely only located in Pella or maybe one other neighboring community. But what do you do with the food restaurants or the restaurants that are national chains? How do they fit in? How can they be part of this? So in some of the discussions that we've had with the tourism director there. We've encouraged them to see if those companies are willing to maybe add some type of specialty product that is only available in Pella at this one store, and they can still then kind of be part of that. Maybe on certain day of the week they offer also their own special type of a dessert that is Dutch based in this case. The next point was we need to be adaptable, as I mentioned, understanding that simply stating what day of the week a product was available would probably not be sufficient. They wanted us to add the time issue in there, but yet some companies may not want to deal with the time. So the system has to be able to be adaptable for each individual business on various components that make up their profile. And then the fourth item, and this is not so much of an item, I guess, in Pella, but it could be in some other communities, is that having high-speed access at the business. Does the business itself, when do the users or the business owners have time to go and input this data, and do they have the speed capable at their business to do this? Is it something they have to do at home? Just understanding exactly what's going on with that. Now, one thing that we are looking towards in Iowa, again, the speed's going to be increasing for everybody, is we eventually have LTE across the state sometime in 2013 for smartphone users. That'll be good for them, but again, for everybody else that doesn't have that technology yet, we need to make sure that the system we build is not so graphic intensive that it takes too long to download onto their type of smartphone device. So again, just making sure we can try and make our tool available to all users. Ted, I think you have some lessons learned from the Missouri project.
Thank you, Chris. I believe Sarah is going to start with the first issue, and we'll pass it back and forth.
Similar to what Chris talked about with the high speed and access to technology, the area where I worked in the South Central region has very limited broadband capacity currently, and because it's a high poverty area, there's not a lot of people that have home computers or access to the high-speed internet that would be needed to use KIM. So we had to adapt a little bit, and it became more of a way for the university to assist communities. They let me know what kind of information they wanted in databases or on maps, and then we inputted it at our offices and then brought the information back to the community coalition. So it's one of those tools that's really important, but we also have to be realistic about who can access it and those opportunities.
One of the things that we found is that in some communities, they may not be quite as tech savvy as other community members. And so when an individual is invited to share in the workspace area, like I said earlier, they have access to all the mapping tools and report tools, etc. And it does require a little training. And so that's one thing that we need to be very careful of as we engage other people in our issue workspaces, is to be able to provide hands-on information. Now, we have just released version 3 of KIM in the last month, and it has simplified the experience for users, not only community members, but also University Extension faculty and staff. And so training in some of the technology will still be an important piece. And thirdly, we feel that the university has a direct role in helping to provide a simplified interface to accessing data for the communities. And that is one of the things that we are trying to accomplish with Kim, is to make a wide variety and diversity of data, and then to be able to help communities make decisions with that data. And so Kim can do that tool, but again, I step back and say it does require some training. And finally, as we've talked about throughout this webinar, there is an increased demand for web-based tools. The public are becoming much more savvy and internet literate, and especially with smartphones and all of the capabilities that are becoming available. And so we're trying to meet that need, and as we are speaking, the programmers are working on interfaces for smartphones that Kim will be able to work within. So that's coming on the horizon shortly. And Sarah, if you'd like to address the last bullet.
Right, and finally, this one, is obvious, but there's a lot of great data and information available that sometimes our communities don't access as much as we might hope, or that we would use as extension faculty, sometimes without getting the on-the-ground feel for what that data actually means. And so this tool has been really helpful for us kind of out here in the field to apply some of the data sources that are available. You can see we used it for our regional specialists and in the communities. So getting that sort of what does it mean to the communities that when they see this data has been really helpful. So it's helped us to improve some of our outcome reporting as university faculty, but then also to engage the communities more broadly with some of the information that's available to them. So I think we're going to pass it on to Dan now to close.
Okay, go ahead, Dan.
Okay, let's just wrap up the presentation portion of the program, and I guess we're going to open up to questions. And Scotty, I think I saw there are a few questions coming in. Maybe you want to moderate. I'll let our team respond.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Yeah, there was a question from, I think it was Gail Overholt, that wanted to know about how easy it would be to adapt these techniques to other types of questions, and for example, a river restoration project tour. So I guess the folks that are kind of doing the guts of the system in terms of the interface maybe could answer that one.
Yeah, this is Chris. It would be possible in the Pella project we utilized Google Maps as opposed to using ArcGIS product as the background, which I believe the Kim is based upon. The thing with the Pella project, it fits in nicely with community-based tours because of the area being covered, and there's not a lot of difference between, you have a certain time that it's open or certain days. It could be a heritage tour or when they're doing a demonstration. Those things all kind of fall into the same type of structure. With the tour you're talking about, again, the technology could do that. It would just require creating a different type of interface that could be utilized to share that information, as well as what type of information would be getting added to that interface. Who are the stakeholders that are inputting the data would be some questions that I would have.
And that's right. This is Diane, and to tag on what Chris is saying, I agree. But we wanted to keep this as a template that would be flexible enough that the community could adapt it to what it most needed and how it needed to be used. And one of the pluses for this tool is that many of these people are very busy during daytime. These are small business owners. They do not have time when they're serving customers to go to meetings and plan events such as this. So they needed a tool where they can go during slow times during the day or after hours, where they can provide their direct input and communicate with each other and form this partnership, even though and still run their businesses, even though they have limited time. And this just makes it more convenient for them. But I can see this very nicely adapting to other projects such as the river tour.
Okay, great. Looks like Gail had a kind of a follow-up question there. Not quite sure what she means by that, but I guess basically, can you share some other examples? Maybe if there's a couple of URLs you could paste into the chat of some things would be helpful. And then we could go to Valentine Cadew's question here on kind of some possible areas of the project database. Okay, the template. Okay. So I guess that would be emailing it directly probably to Gail. So maybe you want to put your email address into the chat box. So Valentine has a kind of a different question here in terms of, what about data that people are not particularly all on the same page about? I mean, it's one thing to say, I'm offering Dutch letters, and that's kind of a fact. You're offering Dutch letters or you're not. But if you start thinking about whether food's healthy or not, there's all kinds of different opinions about that. How do you handle that when there's sort of differences of opinion about things that are said on the site and featured on the site?
I guess I would say you can, from the Missouri side, that like I mentioned, we have trouble with internet accessibility, and so the way the coalitions have worked is, as a group, when we're meeting, they'll share, someone might bring up an issue they'd like to see included, and so then the group has a conversation about whether that fits with their goals or mission, and how that might work as part of their team project. And so it's really been part of the conversation with these coalitions, and making sure that everyone's has a say in kind of what it means. So we've had to make some adjustments, I guess, in terms of our groups and what we consider as we're discussing it, and then based on what the group presents is the way we put it on the Missouri database. So it's really been part of that community engagement and having that conversation with the coalition.
And this is Diane. Shall I go ahead?
Go ahead, Diane, then I'll follow.
Okay, I was going to say, in the Iowa project, again, this would be a community project. We're working one-on-one with Pella right now, but this will totally be handed over to Pella and similar communities. This will be something that a community coordinator or board will need to set the parameters for the project and establish guidelines for what would be participation, what would be the rules, and that type of thing for any of this type of project. It will be a community-owned and orchestrated project.
I was going to share that in CHEM there are security levels. There is private, which means that only the person that has created the content, whether it's a map or a spreadsheet or a report, would be able to see it if they had it set at private. The other setting is organizational member, where the issue workspace would be available to anybody that is a member of that particular issue workspace. The public cannot see it, and even other workspace areas or members that are working in other areas of CHEM. And then finally, there is the public level, which would allow the public to view the information once it's shared in that story area that I showed earlier. So just because there's content in the workspace issue or the issue workspace doesn't mean it's automatically public. And Sarah is the one, for example, in the Healthy Lifestyles Initiative that would control whether content is made public so it could potentially be shared, and whether it would actually be shared when she went into the story area and clicked on that little checkbox that said share story. So we felt it was important that a faculty member had perhaps the last say as to issues, but again, as Sarah said, she is working collaboratively with these different community leaders and members, and so hopefully they'll have a unity in what they feel should be made public or not.
Okay, thanks for a great question. So basically, you've got a moderated system there, which seems to make some sense. Of course, once you turn it over to the community, that won't be the case, at least not the same people moderating it. A couple questions that came up in my mind as I was listening to, really an excellent talk and interesting approaches to using the technologies that we have available to us to do our work better. And that is sort of, that there was one slide that talked about a little bit of not competing with Yelp and one other service. How do we make sure that we're not setting ourselves up to be criticized as competing with the private sector? I noticed that some of the material is, for example, advertising a business yet hosted on the university website. So does that create issues or potential for issues? And once the thing has been graduated and back in the control of the community, does it continue to be hosted on the Iowa State website, or does it sort of go somewhere else?
Scott, that's a good question. And I'll answer that in a moment. In terms of, I saw a lot of questions here about the template. The template that's built is actually a coded template. It's part of the code that we've written. So that's not really something that we can share at this point. And we have to discuss putting together a demo version for people to use and look at. But it is still intellectual property of Iowa State University. So there are some issues with sharing some of that code that's in there. But in terms of how does it sit, there are two different models to go down. I mean, in the case of Pella was a demonstration, is meant to be a demonstration project of the types of stuff that can be done. And as we got into the project, we recognized these different avenues to be able to promote economic development. And that's where it fits into the mission of Iowa State University and our Communities and Economic Development Extension Unit is to help communities with their economic development of their downtowns and whatnot. So there are some issues to look at with how it sits on a university server versus a private server. If it's a private server, whose private server is that? And some of the issues that go with that is communities don't always have the background technology of their current website provider to be able to share or be able to implement these tools directly with their server, or it's kind of complicated for them to do that. So that would be one model, would be sending it out to them and they could play with it and try and install it. But the other model, which is the one we're using with Pella right now, is they can set the style of the interface, but that interface still resides on a central server, and that way, as improvements are made to the code or new features are added, they have the ability to go and just utilize those features without having to redistribute it to X number of communities that are using that software. They just always have a live update of it. So that's kind of the road we're going down right now. There are definitely some university technology issues we need to be looking at, as well as how does it compete with the private sector.
Okay, thanks a lot. And anybody from Missouri want to comment on those questions and how you're approaching that particular set of issues?
I guess I would just say, in terms of like the template, Kim is available. Anybody can at this point, I think, look at our public site, and Ted will have to correct me, but I think that organizations like different extension units can join to be part of the Kim, to be a Kim organization. So in that terms, that's more of a public opportunity, I guess, to get involved with this resource.
And really, you're doing a little bit.
I was just going to mention that Kim was actually coded and written by another university department on campus, and that there are 12 partners across the country. This is not just a Missouri application. And so we would have to be, we'd have to discuss with other partners as far as the sharing capability. And this is something that Mary Leuci could probably have addressed very well. And maybe she'll be able to respond at some time in the future specifically about that.
Well, okay, thanks. I think it's been a great set of presentations that everybody's made. This will be archived on our website. I also wanted to send a special thanks to Dan Otto, who's kind of joined us in a different route through the technology, but he is, I think, basically doing this after retirement. So congratulations, Dan, and thanks for being with us here today and kind of post-retirement presentation.
Scott, this is Chris. I see Nico has a question about other platforms that can be used, and the two main platforms for online mapping remain Google or ArcGIS. Microsoft Bing also has one, but really to get in and use those to have an interface such as we've been discussing in this case, I mean, Kim being kind of a granddaddy, a big system that does many things, compared to the Pella project, which is very focused on doing one thing, you could say. Either way, you end up having to have the coding to make the interface to make everything work and talk to the database. And the current format of way of doing that is to have what's called an API, or an application programming interface, that Google has, ESRI, ArcGIS, they have it. You got to work within that programming interface, typically using JavaScript coding and nowadays HTML5, if you want to be able to share this information out to the current slew of smartphones, tablets, and computer devices. So there's a lot of things that go on. It's not quite like sharing a template for a PowerPoint or for putting together a series of handouts. It does get a little bit complicated.
Well, thanks for that, and thanks for catching that last question. And Indra Neal had a comment too that ArcGIS has online content available for free. Those of you who are online, if you could please fill out the evaluation, that would help us too in terms of getting feedback to our presenters. So just go ahead and click everything that applies on those questions. I think we can turn off the recording now.